everyone, it's Kate here for the On My Shelf tag. I was tagged by Katie over at Katie Loves to Read. She is a channel that I have been watching in recent months that I've really been enjoying, so I will link her channel down below and you guys should definitely check her out. And she has just finished exams, which is really exciting because she's going to have more time to do reading over the summer. So I really enjoy her channel and I'm looking forward to seeing future videos from her. So I was really excited to do this tag. I think it's a fun concept because you guys will see some books that were maybe unexpected on my shelf, and I'm looking forward to showing you all of those. So I put on Twitter for people to give me different combinations of numbers and I would select those books. So the first two were selected by Stephanie over at That's What She Read, and the first combination she picked was 4, Shelf 4, and book 23, and she picked The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. I have now read, I think, 4 W. Somerset Maugham books. He's one of my favorite classic authors. So earlier this year with Stephanie, I picked, we read Of Human Bondage, and it was an amazing book. It took a little bit of my soul with it, but I really enjoyed it. And so I considered Of Human Bondage, The Painted Veil, and The Razor's Edge to be kind of his iconic works, so I really want to get to The Razor's Edge. I'm not sure when exactly I'll be getting to it, but I definitely want to read more of Mom's work, and he has books where I just underline so much of his writing. So I'm really looking forward to getting to this, and it's the story of Larry Durrell, an attractive and enigmatic American who forsakes the comforts of bourgeois society to live a life dedicated to the pursuit of truth and meaning, which sounds a little bit like Of Human Bondage. His former fiancée is the beautiful and vivacious Isabel Mecherin, who is struggling to maintain a family nearly destroyed by the Depression. He is also attracted to the lost, wanton Sophie MacDonald, whose life he attempts to save from its downward spiral. I cannot talk in this video, but regardless, I really do want to get to this sometime because I would like eventually actually to read all of W. Somerset Maugham's books. The next combination Stephanie gave me was Shelf 3, Book 11, and this is kind of appropriate for Stephanie. It's a gritty type mystery, and it's an author that I never stop talking about, and that is Ruth Rendell. This is Kissing the Gunner's Daughter. I read this one last summer, and it was a fan-freaking-tastic summer mystery to read. It starts out where there is a really big old estate and a really wealthy family. I think it's the Flories. Yeah, the Flories live in this estate, and there are 2 men who come in the middle of dinner that the Flories are having, where Daisy is there, her grandmother, her mother, and her mother's boyfriend, and her mother's boyfriend, her mother, and her grandmother are all shot right at the dinner table, and Daisy she's shot too, but she crawls to the phone and calls the police, and she's barely alive, and she says, "Help me, I'm dying." And so the police get there, and she is still alive, and they save her, and then it's just about their investigation of the case and just asking Daisy over and over again about what happened in the case. And at the same time, it's really interesting to compare Daisy with Wexford's daughter, who he's having a really hard time in his relationship with her at the time. And so it was just really good. And it's one of my top Wexfords, actually. So it was really haunting, but good at the same time, like many Wexford are. The next combination is Shelf 2, Book 9, and this was selected by Lindy over at the library Lush, which I think is one of the best channel names out there, and The Little Town on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is one of the later ones in the Little House books, and Whitney over at oh goodness, I just forgot, All the Shelves. Whitney over at All the Shelves just has been going through this whole series, and it was so funny because she was talking about this and she was saying how, and I just feel really bad for Laura because her life is so boring, and to me, I'm such a homebody. Like, I love hearing about Laura's life because I love doing things at home. And at one point when, you know, it's this really cooped up winter, they have kind of a society where they meet once a week, and it's kind of like they do a talent show or they'll do readings. And to me, I just think that's something with people living so far away now and just technology. And obviously I'm using technology to make this movie, so I do like technology, but I think there are some downsides, and I think that we want like fast-paced entertainment all the time. And that's one thing I really appreciated about this, is they just love spending time with people and making their own entertainment, whereas now instead of making music, a lot of times we just listen to music. So that's actually an aspect that I really appreciated about it, but that's just me. I'm a homebody and I like to do things at home. And let's see, next was Lindy picked another one, and she did shelf 6, book 4. That is Winter Solstice by Rosamund Pilcher, and I have so been enjoying the Rosamund Pilcher Coming Home that I've been reading, and I am definitely reading all of her books. They're just such cozy books, and I am saving this one for December when it is the winter solstice, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. And I mean, it's going to be like a lot of hers. She has a pretty typical formula for her books, but I like the formula, so I don't care. It says, when Elfrida Phipps abandons London for a quaint country village, she settles in quickly. She has a tiny cottage, her faithful dog Horace, and the friendship of good neighbors Oscar, Gloria, and their little girl. Perhaps at last she can exorcise the pain of the past and find peace. So just sort of people finding themselves and, you know, making a new life for themselves is kind of a common theme in hers, and I like that. So I am really looking forward to reading some more really cozy Rosamund Pilcher. Next, Whitney over at All the Shelves, who I referenced earlier, she said shelf 2, book 17, and it's really ironic that she picked that because here's Mr. Henry James. And if you have not been watching Whitney's American literature series, then what are you doing with your life? You should be watching it. It's really neat to hear, you know, a teacher talk about those, and just, yeah, need to hear her perspective on them. So Henry James is an author that I bought a couple of his books a few years ago, and I've been too scared to read them. There are lots of movie adaptations of his books, so I haven't watched any of those. I haven't read any of the books, but he was just kind of an author that, you know, is well known out there, and I felt like I should get to. So this says, beautiful Kate Croy may have been left penniless by her relatives, but her bold, ambitious nature ensures she will not succumb meekly to a life of poverty. If the financial circumstances of Merton Densher, the man she is passionately in love with, are not sufficient to secure her future, perhaps her cunning will. So when Millie Thiel arrives in Europe from America, laden with wealth, but also gravely ill, Kate sees an opportunity to exploit Millie's vulnerability and devises a plan that will see herself and Merton financially provided for. So I definitely want to read Henry James at some point. I've heard he's very wordy and kind of dense, so I'm definitely intimidated, but I definitely want to give him a shot. Next combination was from Liz over at Now Voyaging, and she picked the first book on the first shelf. And that is this really nice edition of Robin Hood. I got this at the thrift store a few years ago, and I really do want to read Robin Hood. I've never read it. I've only seen the Disney version. And so these illustrations, they might be a little cheesy, but I actually really like them. I'm trying to find a pen and ink one. And I really enjoy simple pen and ink, and then also like the stamp print, the woodblock print illustrations. I like that style. So I definitely want to read Robin Hood sometime. And this is by, I should tell you who this one is by, J. Walker McSpadden, and it's illustrated by Greg Hildebrandt. So yes, at some point I want to read Robin Hood. The next combination is also from Liz at Now Voyaging, and she picked shelf 6, book 30, and that is a collection of sermons by Martin Lloyd-Jones. This is called The Kingdom of God, and it says the kingdom of God was misunderstood in Jesus' time, and it continues to be misunderstood today. So it's kind of a concept that there's a lot of debate among theologians about what exactly it is. And so I've also just heard really good things about Martin Lloyd-Jones. It says he was a minister of Westminster Chapel in London for 30 years, and he passed away in 1981. So actually some of his sermons are online. So he's a more recent theologian. So these are just a collection of sermons that I hope to read sometime. Next is shelf 4, book 14, and Deborah Brown selected this combination. And one thing I don't talk about like at all on my channel is poetry, and there are actually a couple of poets that I do like, and John Donne, even though his name looks like Don, it's John Donne, is John Donne. So this is the love poems of John Donne, and in a literature class I took in college, I first read some of his poems and I really liked them. So he is a poet that I like, and he also wrote the poem Death Be Not Proud. That's pretty iconic. So I haven't read this in its entirety, but I would like to read some more of his poetry, just kind of when I'm in the mood for it. The next combination was provided by Katie over at Katie Loves to Read, and it was Shelf 2, Book 22, and that is a book from one of my favorite series of all time, and that is the Betsy Tacy series by Maud Hart Lovelace, and I'm trying to remember, oh, okay, I couldn't remember Betsy's last name. It's Betsy Ray. And these are set in the early 1900s, and it's just about Betsy growing up in a small town in, I think it's Wisconsin? Minnesota. That's where she lives, in Minnesota. So you don't find a lot of books set in Minnesota. And I adore this series. You get to see Betsy grow up, and hence the title, Betsy and the Great World. She goes traveling a lot in this one. It's after she's graduated from high school, and then you get to see Betsy get married. So I really love these series, and this is another one where the really simple pen and ink illustrations are something that I really appreciate. Can I get that over? Yeah. So I really adore this series. And that is the On My Shelf tag. I am going to tag, let's see, Katie over at Life Between Words, Kate at the novel Nomad. I'm trying to think of who else would like to do this. And Sarai at Sarai Talks Books. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing maybe a little bit different of books than you usually see, and I will see you for another video soon.